Welcome to this week's video. This week's video is a continuation of my 2024 book sort of flip through chat, techo, kaigi, whatever you want to call it. Last week we spoke about my Hobonichi A6 books, so if you want to watch that, I'll put a card up so you can move over to that one. In real time, this is all the same morning. I've just stopped for a bit of water and I'm going to carry on. My throat is a little bit sore, so if I sound a bit off or unusual, that's why. So the beginning of last year, I struggled for the first 3 or 4 months about what book was going to be appropriate for a commonplace book for me. I ended up going through 4 different books in the first 4 months of the year, something like that. I took a trip to Sheffield with my partner. We popped to Fred Aldous as part of that, and I finally picked up a set of field notes. I've been eyeing them up for a little while, thinking it might be a system that would work for me, and I got this birch bark collection. And then in the second half of the year, I used these Traveller's Notebook style and size booklets that were made by Megan of Megan Rhiannon. The field notes were good, but I flew through them quickly. They're expensive, and that's why I looked at another option and picked up these books from Megan in the second half of the year, and they worked out really well for me. Just reorder these. And then I also have this Traveller's Notebook Tokyo edition booklet, and this was like my overflow book for when I was in these Megan booklets. There's not much of this that's filled out because of it being overflow, but I'm certainly going to be able to put it to use for other things, either this year or in the future. One purpose I did think of for this was, I suppose, kind of true to its original intent, where if I take a trip or I go on holiday somewhere, any ephemera that maybe doesn't fit in my A5 book, I can put in here, so I can keep tickets, receipts, that sort of thing, just for the fun of it. So if we start off with the field notes books, I suppose something just to set out, I guess, or explain early on, just to add a little bit more personality, I suppose, to these books. Each time I moved into a new one, I would pick a new picture for the front cover, and I also used some of my rubber stamps to put 1, 2 and 3 on there. Because at the time I started, I was pretty sure that I was just going to get this set, just going to try it and see how I get on, rather than fully committing to it. But by numbering them, I thought, well, actually, if I did ever get another set in the future, it's a simple way of just continuing to number them. I don't use rubber stamps very often, but the ones that I do have are just these letters and punctuation type ones. So let's make a start. So the layout that I've used in the field notes largely has been inspired by how Megan used them. I don't know when it was now, 21, 22-ish. And also by how Atia has used them as well in the past. So these beginning parts, I would do a little bit of an introduction, setting a plan or intention about how I'd want to use the book. And then I would have a commonplace key, just using these bog standard pound shop stickers. What my key was or refers to has evolved over the months. So it evolves a little bit in the field notes, it evolves further in here, and now I'm pretty much secure with what key's gonna be the one for me through 2025. So what was quite nice about using these smaller booklets is it gave me that bit of room to breathe and change things up if I wanted to. Whereas the idea of committing to something for the whole year, a little bit intimidating. My interests might change a bit. But there's certain things that are pretty consistent and solid for my whole life, basically. So, and something else I took to doing, particularly in the field notes, was adding in a sticker or a picture that was some sort of figure or person. I'll just show you quickly. And it was almost like they were a mascot for the book then. So we've got a couple of different versions of that over the books. So pretty much like last week, if you watched last week's, I will just flip through the pages, and if there's anything that I feel is like interesting or pertinent to tell you, I'll speak up, but there'll be some pages where I'm just flipping through. So I did start these books off with quotes about commonplacing, writing in notebooks, and there's some aspects of these that I repeat. I think sometimes writing down the same quote multiple times helps it stick in your head, but there was almost like a ritualistic element for me, and part of me feeling comfortable in a book was getting quotes down on a couple of pages, and then I felt a bit more free to just like carry on from where I left off, so to speak. I think another part of that copying out and repeating thing was the books that I'd used in the first couple of months of the year. I wanted to make sure that all the information I wanted to reference throughout the year was captured in these, what feel like more like my more sort of permanent books. And what I ended up doing with those other books in the end, I think, was once I'd copied everything out, so I wanted to in either the field notes or these traveller's notebook style ones, was I recycled those pages, and now they're like blank notebooks for me to pick up whenever. So I didn't want to lose what I had captured in those first few months. There's a few things in here about like psychology, and it was really in these first couple of notebooks that I started reading a lot more biographies, autobiographies rather, by autistic people, and learning about different people's experiences. And then I would often quote what felt pertinent to my experience, or what were helpful things to try and remember. Because these field notes are quite small, there's not a huge amount of decoration in here. They're just sort of dotted in where it feels pertinent. I think something that's quite fun is this sticker that I've got from the Nottingham Horror Collective. The greens go so nicely, just coincidentally, with the stickers, you know, the dot stickers that I've used for my key, my colour coding. Sometimes I would stick ephemera bits in here, like this library receipt. Mostly this book was about like collecting quotes and information, but now and again, you know, where you see the red dots, that's like to-do lists or more personal notes to me. Looks like I'd started thinking about my A5 already at this point. I think what was quite nice with these books is because they were like so small, there was like just a freeness to write whatever came to mind. This is from when I went to Nottingham Trans Pride, and people were handing out leaflets for people for Palestine _knots. So that's in there. There's some kind of, I guess, wasted space here. Looks like here I attempted to do my like things I want to do once a week list in this book, but it looks like I just didn't maintain it, didn't keep it up. And then I've got a post office receipt at the last page there. So not like super thrilling, but a couple of interesting spreads I think in this one. Number 2. So yeah, same sort of thing here. We've got the little Yoshito Minara character, little introduction, and the key. I would like to continue with the success of the first book. It served me well. It wasn't too precious and it filled up quickly. I think that's the vibe with the field notes. So in last week's video, something I mentioned was the self-care checklist that Megan made. There were a couple of occasions where I'd stuck the checklist into my like everyday A6 book, but it didn't really work. But I found it worked out a lot better when I stuck it in the field notes. So I think this is like the first instance of me doing that. And I made some additional notes and stuff as well. It seemed easier to flip back to it, I think, because of the key colour coding. But I would also use one of the Midori clips on the relevant page as well, so it was easy like to tab and come back to. I think I've got some more quotes in here about keeping notebooks. It's always a good way to like start a fresh book. Got some notes here about the summer solstice. So I've got a picture, aerial picture of Stonehenge here. A bunch of quotes about haunted houses and the kind of psychology of that when it comes to literature and filmmaking. I like the decoration. Although it's minimal, you know, it helps me think about what the thing is without having to look. Got another one of those checklists in here. Some personal thoughts, and got a guide in here about adding cut lines to stickers on Procreate, which is why I've got this tab to still, because this is a reference for me to come back to. I'm trying to think, yeah, I've tagged it as reference. So this is kind of handy. I'll probably come back to this, or I might actually write this up again in the A5 somewhere, because I will come back to it. I read The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and I really like how she writes, like her descriptions of settings and people. And I wrote out her sort of initial descriptions of the main characters, and I found some pictures on Pinterest of people that looked kind of along the same lines. So the pictures kind of helped me remember who the characters were as well. I used my thermal printer for this, so the images are very much faded now. Got another one of the self-care checklists in here. July horoscope, some quotes. Stock take for my art shop. Some more quotes. One of the checklists again, these were really helpful. Another library receipt. Packing list for an art market I did. Task list for the art market, some more quotes. Starting to think about, I've been thinking yet again about what book system I want to go with next year. More and more I'm being drawn to simplicity and function over all else. For me, the weeks fits the bill. That didn't last long. Having a running weekly to-do list would be really helpful. There's a lot that appeals to me about the weeks, and I think if I was out of the house more, then I'd have gone with the weeks in addition to the A5. But for the time being, the A5 plus like a scrappy little notebook. I mean, we're only like 2 days in at the time of filming this. We're only 2 days into the new year, but I think that's the one for me, really. This is me talking excitedly about some Halloween bits that I found in TK Maxx, and then some quotes. Number 3, so we've got some kids in like Halloween masks here. Introduction key. Some more commonplace and book related quotes. Depending on how I'm feeling, I might put some of these in the A5. I think it'd be good to capture them. And because I think what's really nice with the idea of like everything in one book is once I've got these quotes in here, that's me set for the year. I'm not going to have to repeat them because I'm moving to multiple books. Some more quotes gathered from the internet. I might go through, have a proper read through of these, and then if there's anything that still feels really pertinent, they may well come across to this year's book. I think I've got loads of quotes here, but I think they're all from the same source. Yeah, these are from Unmasking Autism by Dr. Devon Price. So there were a lot of things in that book that I was like, God damn, this is me. So they went in here. Quite like the little bit of layering we've got with this Yoshito Minara character. I think this is when the like autism special interest was really in like full throttle. Still very much there, but I'm not necessarily writing about it quite as much. Got another one of these self-care checklists in here. More quotes. This is from Things I Want to Talk About by Pete Warmby, another a good like autism book. I like this one. Put this gloomy sticker with it, and it just felt like me and him are the same person for a second. It was like walking through a crowded shopping centre with Manic Street preachers shouting about being architects and pioneers in my ears is a perfect way to managing to avoid the throngs of people, even though they're still technically there. The music lifts me away from all of that and makes it transitory and irrelevant, which is brilliant. Let's have a quick look. Oh yeah, some notes about Mothman, some pictures from a nice walk. Got another self-care checklist in here. Hobonichi thoughts. So tomorrow is the start of the previews for the Hobonichi. I can't quite believe it's almost August already. And then I'm doing like a pro and con list of things, how I would use the books, what I want to track daily, what I want to track weekly, a picture of the Gingham Hon, which is the book that I went on to have, different senses in the body, some yoga information because I was starting to get back into my yoga, some information about how big different planners are and the dimensions, more quotes. Yeah, talking about the rings system and how much I was enjoying that at the time as well. So that's the field notes. Like, I feel like because I flew through them, there's like not much there, but also looking back, I'm suddenly kind of like transported to that time and place again. Really weird to think about. And then in July, so I guess in a similar way to the field notes, I would always pick a picture or a sticker or something to go on the front, and then instead of using my stamps on these ones, I use my Dymo label maker for putting the month on. So these all have, you know, very similar layouts. Whoa, sorry, random bit of paper I just found. Very similar layouts to one another. So I'm not necessarily going to go into masses of detail about every single page, but how I use the pages fluctuated and changed a little bit. There was a bit of fluidity there. So here I decided to use this first bit as like a media tracker, and I use these different stickers to indicate which types of media I engaged with in each day. So like you can see there's loads of green because I watch TV or watch a film of some sort pretty much every day. I read pretty consistently through July, played video games now and again, but not that frequently, and I listen to podcasts quite often as well. And then on the second half of the page, I did it as like a future log for media. So for instance, in August, we've got Umbrella Academy coming out, Only Murders in the Building coming out. September, we've got Beetlejuice coming out. You get the gist. And then I'd use that same key with the dot stickers to indicate what kind of media it was. I used the calendar page as like a reading tracker, but then also would put things in here like when Twisters came out in the cinema. So this was kind of it looks like quite messy, but it was nice to see like just how quickly I was reading. And then for some reason I've got a media tracker again here, so I've like duplicated what was on that previous page. The most useful part of these Traveller's Notebook style books for me were absolutely the commonplace pages, which are at the very end. This first sort of half of each of the booklets was a bit more of a struggle. I've got a TBR/TBW here. I think I had some sort of picture or collage in here, but I've since transplanted it and put it somewhere else because this isn't a great use of this space. Got the monthly review here, and then there was like a weekly spread. So something that I found with the A6 is that sometimes I would miss that. So this was not quite a week's layout, but not quite a horizontal week's layout either. It was something in between. And what I used this for during July was like media logging. So every TV show I watched, every podcast I listened to, I would write it down. And then now and again, I'd have some additional thoughts and notes. And I'd add bits of decoration now and again, but it was pretty minimal. Because this was very much like a secondary book, so I wasn't looking at it all the time, so I didn't feel that same drive to decorate so much. So yeah, that's what I use the weekly spreads for in this month. And then we get on to the sort of commonplace bit, but then actually I'm looking at this and it's just media tracking. Yeah, so I think I must have just used this as a media book in July, and maybe I was still in the field notes for the commonplace. So I did this little mood board to do with media. So we've got these like skeleton people with cameras, we've got lots of books here, a screenshot from the others, and another one from Scream. We've got a book, we've got a vinyl here. So yeah, I think that was just the vibe and the mood of the type of media I was engaging with. Got a ticket from The Mummy. This was a film that I was obsessed with as a child, and then it was in the cinema, so I was like, great, let's go, let's see it. And I had thoughts about it, so I wrote that for a while. My review of The Secret History, my review of The Five and of the Creepy magazines, Court of Silver Flames, my brother's husband. What is this book? Oh yeah, okay. What I want to talk about, Alice in Borderlands, just all the stuff, all the books I read, the media I engaged with, if I had any thoughts on it. Sometimes I'll watch something and it's like, okay, that's finished, that's done with, and I don't really think about it that much again, which I think is like the more like quote unquote standard response to media. And then some things will just like really stick in my head and I'll like loop about them and ruminate about them. So then writing about it helps get it out of my head a little bit. Night to Remember was the last book I read in July, I think. Watched a few films, finally watched Midsummer, watched Thelma. Could do with putting my little sticker on that page just for a sense of completion. And that's that in this book. What I also did, so I'll show you in future months, I would sometimes run out of space for writing, and before I got the Tokyo Traveller's Notebook book, I would scalpel pages out of books where I'd not used all the pages, so that's why this is a bit rough at the back here. Got the August book. Instead of a printed picture, I've just put this sticker on of some mushrooms. Okay, so for this future log, for the current month, I put like tasks and media releases on, and then I think I've done the same for the September and October. I think it was semi-useful, but I don't remember much about it. August, I just duplicated my A6 calendar for whatever reason. And here I did some health tracking as well, some of the major sort of symptoms that I experience. I did a gratitude log in the tracking. That's always nice to do, nice to have, but I would often forget to do it and then kind of backtrack. Monthly review is what it is on the says what it is. No, does what it says on the tin. I've been talking for like an hour and a half, so I'm starting to lose it, I think. Yeah, okay, so during August, I used these little daily spreads for very quick, snappy summaries of what I did each day, what the theme of the day was, so to speak. My tracking of what I wanted to do every day, I tried to put here, and I did it as a tally, but what I would struggle with is, say if I added a notch in the morning, and then I would be looking at the book in the evening, I couldn't remember if I'd done that notch earlier that day or the previous day. So it made tracking this information actually quite tricky. But then tracking the tasks that I wanted to do once in the week, that was pretty straightforward because once it's done, it's done. So I tried it a little bit different here. I just did the tasks that I wanted to do once in the week. That was fine. So I do the kind of reoccurring things here, but then the one-off tasks, I draw the line and do that underneath. It's quite nice decoration here at the bottom, I think. Same sort of thing again here. And then for some reason I've not done that tracking bit, but I've got a nice bit of decoration at the bottom here. This is very minimal. Because I think it was only these for like the first couple of days of the week that were still August. So I think that's why that drops off. Yeah, September in here. Then we get to the commonplace section. I think, yeah, August is definitely when I started really getting into commonplacing in here because I've had to stick a bunch of additional pages in. So we've got kind of similar to the field notes, but the opposite way around, if that makes sense. So I've got the key at the top and then my little introduction here. So we've got notes here about Lamas, and I really think the decoration here is really cute. Information from the Hobonichi previews. So the theme potential, and I wrote out that sort of first article that came out. This is when I started reading more sort of scientific papers about autism. You know, it's an area of research that isn't particularly well funded, but there are organisations like the National Autistic Society that consistently do work to help people's understanding. So it's similar to the previous books. The decoration would be minimal, but I tend to get certain, I don't know, vibes when I'm reading things and pictures in my head, and sometimes I will think, oh, like this sticker I've got or that I've seen online matches the vibe of what I'm thinking about and writing about here. But generally when it comes to like scientific papers, you know, you're not gonna think like, oh yeah, this reminds me of a flower. So it's a bit more minimal, but there's lots of information packed in here. Some quotes, got some thoughts about the books I've been reading, information about the new moon, and then yeah, the Hobonichi previews are starting to come out. So I wasn't writing about Hobonichi previews every single day, but when something maybe appealed to me or I found it interesting or I had thoughts about it, then I would write about it. So here it's just when they did the reveals of the books that you would get with, you know, a cousin and a Vec at home, and thinking about like, I'd like this particular cover, but I wouldn't mind that cover or another cover. So I'm writing here about the case of Hoople Bella in the Witch Elm. Writing a review about a book and another book. Here I did this bit of a collage for my rings, but for whatever reason I didn't like it, or I didn't, you know, get on with it, so I just stuck it in here because I didn't want to waste the pictures. Got some pictures of the rings set up that I had going on and how I was really liking the vibe in there. Some tarot stuff, some more Hobonichi bits. I really like the cover where it's the cat riding the bicycle across sort of the nightscape. That would have been, I think, my second choice for a book if I didn't go for the Gingham Hon. So I wrote about that for a while. Wrote about an article I found about the importance of analogue tools. Now these pages are not very well stuck in at all, but I'm not necessarily going to come and look at this book load, so I might put some work into, you know, taping this in properly, but I might not. Another sort of book review, and another one, and another one. I am pleased with how much I've read this year, well, last year. Some notes about mycology there, and then some like sensory needs based information there. September, got this UFO picture here. Okay, so future log, but just for media releases, quite minimal. Same again here, quite minimal, didn't really make great use of the space. The media tracking was, you know, kind of useful. Lots of TV, not so much music and gaming. My TBR, and this TBR kind of carried me through October and a bit of November as well. I think I copied some of it out. But I've not necessarily updated the list, so a few of these I have read, but I just didn't update them. My monthly review, I decided to add some pictures in this time, which was really nice. I feel like it's a good way for me to immediately think about what I did and what happened without having to read all the text. So for instance, we've got a picture here from Coffin Works in Birmingham. That was what we did as my like day out treat. I've got a picture here of my feet, my partner's feet, my siblings' feet and their partner's feet. We went out for a meal for my birthday. So that was a picture I sort of took to help commemorate that. And then we've got my Hobonichi order down here. And I didn't use the weekly spreads in September at all. Just didn't feel the need. But then I made full use of the commonplace section. I'm liking the layering and the pictures here. Got a few papers that I've made notes on. Got my review here of the book that I read. A few quotes. Yeah, more quotes, lots of notes about books that I've read. quite liking the decoration across here. I made some notes here about maneki nekos, so you know the Japanese cat figurines that sort of greet you. I received a Waterstones voucher and I bought a book, and I had a couple of quid left on it, and they had maneki nekos in there, so I bought one, and it came with a leaflet that had information in about the history. Rather than hanging on to the leaflet, I just copied it up in here so I'd have it for reference. But because I had that leaflet, it meant that I could cut pictures out from it and include it in these pages. You've got information here about the symbolism associated with the different colours of cats. And some information about Mabon here, or Mabon, I'm never too sure how to pronounce that. October, got a nice Halloween inspired front cover here. And I think, again, you know, when we've looked at my Hobonichi books last week, something that came on more and more was this idea of like collaging, layering images, mixing things together to see how they'd work with one another. You start to see that even just on the front covers, like the last 3 months, you know, I've gone for, it's quite funny how similar those two are. You know, I'm maybe engaging with this practice more creatively, being more willing to play and experiment with things, which is cool. So yeah, here we go. This was just a media logging sort of spread. The other thing I did note down here, so my closest cinema to me currently is a Cineworld. It was under threat of being closed down, but the local council saved it. And during October, they did a horror season, and I was toying with whether or not to buy one of their, like, you know, loyalty cards where you can just go to the cinema as much as you like. And I made a note of what they were showing to think about, would I go to the cinema enough to justify the price of the card? So that's noted down here. Okay, so during October, I did Peachtober over on my art Instagram account. And what I decided to do in this monthly spread, and it was a really good use of space, I found it really helpful, was to write down the prompt for each of the days, and then I did a colour coding system here to document my progress. So I had a colour for when I'd finished the line work, when I'd finished the drawing, you know, all the colouring and all that, and then another dot for once the work was uploaded. So I would be able to track how I'd got on with each of them. And I feel like something like this would be really helpful for any future kind of longer term or bigger project. And then I've got a media tracker down the side here. Got my TBR. I'm just going to see again if I had made any progress. Yeah, okay. That's where we are. Nice little sort of collagey bit here just to help fill the space out. Got my monthly review again, and again, it was good to have some pictures. So we've got, I turned my fireplace into a bit of a Halloween Samhain altar space. So that's this top picture of my partner and I. We went for a walk, and then one of my neighbours had this quite elaborate Halloween display, and that's what the bottom picture is. Bit of decoration in as well. I've used a paper clip here to pin all the weekly pages together because I didn't use them in October either. We've got my key, got my introduction, and then we've got my commonplace section. So I think a lot of this is the notes I made about different science papers I read that month. We've got my book reviews in here too, bits of decoration along the way. Yeah, a lot of this is the sort of sciencey stuff. I put this information in a box. So this particular paper was called Is Neurodiversity a Global Northern White Paradigm? And there were some really interesting points in here. And then normally I would, for papers, just do my bullet point notes like this, but there was this quote towards the end that I thought was really important. And I also didn't want to like paraphrase it and talk over the authors. So I kept the quote in as it was, put this box around it and put the exclamation point as well, just to really highlight like the driving message of the paper. Got some more notes about autism bits here, and I've used a couple of my glimmer stickers as well because it was pertinent to what was being discussed. The book review. I've been thinking a lot about this photography project. So I'm 30 now, and I've been on Tumblr on and off since I was like 14, and this photography project is something that I would see come up time and time again over the years, and I'd always think like, oh, I love those pictures. I like, you know, I'd read the bio about the people involved and be like, yeah, that's cool. But I didn't document them or commonplace them beyond like reblogging the pictures. It came up again for me, and I was like, do you know what, I'm going to print the pictures off, I'm going to write about it and, you know, engage with it a bit more. So it was nice to do that. And I've got quite a few pictures here with some of the information about the project. Sleepy Hollow like stuck in my brain for a long time after I watched it, so I've written about it a bit. Some of my thoughts on it, but then some information from the wiki about the film as well. And also the parallels with the original Frankenstein film, particularly the ending scene. Information about the full moon, and then yeah, that's the end of that book. November. Media tracking again here, so pretty minimal, pretty sparse. Reading tracking again, with a little bit of decoration related to the books that I was reading. So we've got this like vampiric bear here while I was reading Interview with a Vampire. We've got sort of Danish heart, woven heart decoration here when I read The Little Book of Hugo. We've got my media tracking here, that was pretty consistent. Here I decided to track my tasks that I wanted to do every day. So as well as documenting them elsewhere, I thought it'd be really useful to get like a monthly overview of it to see how consistent I was being. I've got my monthly review with a few pictures again. So we've got a picture of my granddad with his dog here because I went to visit my grandparents. We've got a picture of a snowy tree because it was the first snow we had of this winter. And then I've got a picture of one of the colleges from when I went to Cambridge for a trip to see my friend. I decided in November I'd use the weekly spreads for health tracking, so what health symptoms I was experiencing, and having my like weekly to-do list in here as well. So we've got some cute decoration down the sides and things as well. I think partway through the month I decided actually tracking the health stuff's not helping me here. I'm not making use of the data in any way that's helpful long term. So instead I just did it as like a weekly overview, particularly on this day when I had like trains to catch and stuff, making sure I was like writing down the times again to help me remember, and some tasks sort of mixed in as well. And then we get to the commonplace section. So here we've got a little introduction, but then I also put my like November mood board in. So the same mood board as I'd put in the A6, I decided to duplicate that. I think partly because I just really liked it, but also I think it's a nice way of like setting the intention for the pages in a way as well. So we've got my Halloween tarot reading in here, a few quotes, decorations quite nice here as well. Interview with a Vampire review and thoughts. Some quotes from that book as well. Some tape swatches because I ordered from Killer Views. Tarot reading. November full moon information. Review of a book I read and another one. Some quotes. Another very quick review here, and then I finished. I didn't commonplace that much during November. I got to page 25 here, and then December we're on a roll here. We're moving. I'll just add the date in here, so the 31st of the 12th, 24. This was the sort of media tracking again. Something I found was in November and December, when you were looking at what media releases coming out in January, February, March, there was like next to no information about anything. So that's quite blank as a result. I used this as a reading tracker again, and you know, I read quite a bit last year. I was quite pleased with my progress, but through December, for whatever reason, I was really quite sluggish with it. I just like lost my mojo a bit. But what I was finding when I look at my media tracker is, although I was reading less, I was gaming more, and you know, there's only so many hours in a day. So I think part of it was because I was gaming more and really enjoying that. So I read 2, 3 books. It's not bad at all, but not the same rate as I was for like most of the year. Got my habit tracking here from, you know, the things I try and do every day. The monthly review page is blank. That's something that I'm going to fill in the next couple of days. So this isn't 100% complete, but 99.9%. And through December, I used the weekly pages for like brief task lists, you know, headlines, plus appointments, just so I had a quick weekly view of things, plus that list of things that I try and do once each week. And then, yeah, a little bit of decoration as we go as well. And this is that final week. And then, yeah, we've got my commonplace. So kind of the same as November. I put the mood board in again, little bits of decoration as well. I've got a book review to start with. Notes are from a paper that I read. I downloaded a few different papers to read in December, and I read some of them, but I found myself getting quite exhausted by it. I think it was at a point where things felt like too painful and pertinent to read, where actually I needed to step away from it. So I didn't read quite as many of those sorts of things this month. You know, I say this month, in December, as I had in previous months. I think it just got a bit too much for me. Some other reviews, and then I've got my little bit of information from the journal meetup that I went to, and the museum trip that I took as well. And it was nice to stick some things in. Got some pictures from that trip as well. This was from the What's On leaflet from the National Portrait Gallery. Got some information about the December full moon and some nice little decoration bits here. Review of Feminism is for Everybody and some quotes from that book as well. Quite like this bit of decoration down here too. And then, yeah, that was it for December. So only about 19 pages of commonplace now, I think, just because how busy December got in the end. And then lastly, just a few bits in this Tokyo booklet. I'm going to move these quickly. Okay. So there's not loads in here because it was just purely an overflow book. And I think there were only a couple of months when I tipped into this. So we've got my key and my little introduction here explaining how I acquired the book and what the plan was for it. So first thing I've written about in here was some more kind of in-depth thoughts about my 2025 setup and what I was thinking of getting for 2025. And I'm pretty sure this is exactly what I went with in the end. I bought this grey pencil board and it arrived and I just couldn't get on with the colour for some reason. It kind of made me feel nauseous, probably is a strong word, but if you are also autistic, I think you will understand how something like that can cause such a visceral response. I just couldn't look at it. It made me feel a bit queasy. So I sold it on to somebody and I've stuck with the navy and pink. And these extra bits as well. So I've got these memo pads in my overflow books, but I've covered them since. And I've got the pack of the green pockets here. Got some information here about Lady Jane Grey. And I think, yeah, there's a picture here of the painting of her execution, but it was painted a couple hundred years later, so it's not 100% accurate. Anyway, I won't blab about that too much. Got some horoscope information here. We've got some activities for autumn and the Halloween period, because there was a period of a couple of weeks where I just kind of was feeling out of sorts because there's not many people around me that care about that as much as I do. And I was like, what solo activities can I do? I just made some notes for myself. Got some quotes here from Excavating My Identity and Relationship with Disability, which was helpful. some more quotes from a paper, I think it was, about neurodiversity and trauma and how those interlink. My review of Cemetery Boys. And then I did a new key here because I started running, well, I thought I started running out of these stickers. It turned out they were like tucked away somewhere, I just couldn't find them. So we've got a new key here. Got my tarot reading for October. Got some notes about Samhain here. Tarot spread that I did. Some notes about Scorpio season. Different symbols that you find in cemeteries. I like this little collage here. And here as well, actually. Some various quotes here. Yeah, and that's as far as we've got in that. But, you know, I will be making use of this in the future. So we did it. We're finally there. We've covered all of the commonplace books that I went through last year. So I hope you found that of interest. It's interesting going through it myself. It was helpful, reflective exercise. And it's also got me thinking about some of the information and quotes that I've got in these books that I think I might transfer to my 2025 book for the sake of, I guess, posterity. Is that the word? Yeah, posterity. Yeah, I'll leave it at that for today. I've got a very croaky voice now. I'm looking forward to moving forward, but I have loved a lot of my time in these books, and I feel like it's helped me a lot in terms of getting in touch with my special interests again and things like that. So it feels like quite emotional in a lot of ways looking at these books again. But yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.